All right, so in the last lesson, we talked about credit, as in borrowing money temporarily and then paying it back. And we talked about different types of credit. And we're going to talk specifically about two of them in the remainder of this unit: personal loans and credit cards. Okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about a personal loan, which is very common. This is different. We talked about credit, we talked about a line of credit. This is very different. A line of credit, you can qualify for like a $50,000 line of credit, but you don't have to use the $50,000. You could spend $10,000 on something and then pay it back. Okay, you could spend $5,000 on something and pay it back. I have a line of credit that has zero on it right now because I only use it if I have some kind of major renovation to do. Okay, I used it when I built a new garage, but then I was able to pay it off within about a year to 2 years. So that's a personal line of credit. A personal loan is when you take a certain amount and you got to pay that whole amount back. Yeah.
Where can you get it? Is it the bank?
Usually a bank. Doesn't it, or it could be some other financial institution, but you're right. Okay. So a lot of times people use what they'll do. Let's say when you buy a vehicle, a new vehicle, you can get a personal loan from the dealership in which you pay them back. Or if you don't like their interest rate and you don't like their payment schedule, you can go to your bank and see if you can get a better deal. So a lot of people do that when it comes to vehicles. This has nothing to do with houses. Houses is a completely separate type of loan called a mortgage. Okay? So when you go get a personal loan, and like other things you could use for a personal loan, education. Okay, kind of like a student loan almost. Major family trip. You know, you're going around the world for 6 months. Something that's a major trip, not just going down to Mexico for a week. Okay. So, what are the components of a personal loan? The term is how long the loan is in effect, how long you have to pay it back. Okay? It's usually fixed for a maximum of 5 years. You can pay it off earlier, but usually when you take a personal loan, it's got to be paid back within 5 years. Yeah. Yes, which is going to be the next thing we talk about, right? Okay. When you pay back a loan, that is a special name. It's called to amortize a loan. Amortizing a loan is when you pay it back. Okay. So there's the term, the amount of time, and then there's the interest rate, because like I said, they're going to charge you for borrowing money, and they charge you by an interest rate. And something you can negotiate interest rates. It's possible with financial institutions. If you're a preferred customer, they may give you a better interest rate. If you've been banking with them for a long time and you're in good standing and your credit score is good, okay? If you take a larger amount of money, the interest rate is generally lower. If you take a smaller amount of money, the interest rate is generally higher. I'm not going to talk about variable and fixed rates, so I'm going to leave that. The amount of the loan we talked about, and the monthly payment. So usually when you take a personal loan, it's set up so you're going to pay back a certain amount per month. And it's going to be, and some of that money is going to be paying back the amount that you borrowed. And some other part of that money is going to be the interest. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Or let's say you bought a whole bunch of appliances and it cost you 10 grand, and you take a $10,000 personal loan. Yeah. Okay. What many banks do, and even what appliance stores do, and what car dealerships do, is they set up a payback table, an amortization table. And you can see the amortization table here. If you go to the end of this lesson. So what this table does, it assumes that you've taken $1,000 loan. Okay. So if you want to find out how much you have to pay back per month, you need to know a few things. First of all, you need to know the interest rate again. So like if we had a 7% interest rate, and if I was promised to pay it back within 1 year, the $1,000, I'd have to pay $86.53 a month. If I decided I'm going to pay that $1,000 loan back in 5 years, I only have to pay $19.81 per month. Obviously, it's going to be lower because you spread out your payment over a longer period of time. Okay. And then if your loan is for a different amount, let's say it's for $10,000, you just multiply all these amounts by 10. If your loan is for $5,000, you multiply all these amounts by 5. If your loan is for $50,000, you multiply them all by 50. So we're going to look at a few examples. So here, at the bottom of this page, B Noble requires a personal loan of $10,000 for home renovations. Her financial institution offers her a 3-year loan at a fixed interest rate of 10 1/4, which is the same as 10.25. Okay? Because that's what it's going to say on the amortization table. It's not going to say 10 1/4. It's going to say 10.25. So how much does she have to pay her financial institution every month? So here's how we do it. Okay. We've got to take the amount of her loan, the term of the loan, and the interest rate, and go to the amortization table. So she was at 10.25% interest rate. How long is her term? 3 years. So I got to go over here and I get 32.38. That's how much she would have to pay for a $1,000 loan. So from the table, pays 32.38 for $1,000, but she didn't take the loan for $1,000. She took the loan for 10 grand. So what do I have to multiply this amount by? By 10. So you've got to do 32.38 times 10, which gives you 323.80. For $10,000. So these amortization tables or payback tables are very common when we talk about loans. Okay, and we use them with mortgages too.
Will you get like a data table?
Always, you will always be given the table. Okay, so the additional question is, how much does she pay in interest over the 3 years? Because remember, why it keeps doing that. This 323.80 is how much she's paying back on the 10,000, and she's also paying, part of this is interest. We just don't know how much. But we do know that she has to pay this for 3 years, doesn't she? So let's figure out how much she pays in total. For total payments. For 3 years. Is going to be 323 times how many months are in 3 years? And how many months are in 3 years? 36. Which means the total that she's going to pay after she's finished, after 3 years, is $11,656.80. That's the principal amount that she borrowed, or the original amounts, and the interest. So how do I figure out the interest? Take this, subtract the 10 grand. Because remember, the 11,656.80 is the 10,000 that she borrowed and the interest that they charge. So if we want to find just the interest, we take 11,656.80, subtract 10 grand. And we get $1,656.80. So she just doesn't pay the $10,000 back. She has to pay this amount back too, over 3 years. So it cost her over $1,500 to borrow $10,000 for 3 years. And you can see if you get behind in payments, how that can start to really climb. And then that's when people get in trouble, when they are unable to pay things off.
Is that when debt happens?
Absolutely. Actually, as soon as you take,
It's debt.
it's debt, right? That's right. Okay. So we're still with B. She still wants to borrow 10 grand. But this time, she gets a better interest rate, 9.5%. Okay. And she decides, well, I'm going to take 5 years to pay it off instead of 3. So we're going to answer the same questions that we did on the last page. How much does she pay each month? How much interest does she pay over the total loan, over the total period of the loan? So from the table, go to the table, look for 9.5%, look for 5 years. How much?
Um,
Down below,
21.
21. $21 for $1,000 loan.
23%.
So 21 times 10, $210 for 10,000. So that's her payment each month. And then how much she pays in interest over the 5 years. Well, we got to figure out how much did she, if she was paying $210 a month, how much was that over 5 years? So 210 times 60 months, because 60 months is 5 years. $12,600. But remember, that's the $10,000 and the interest. This is P and I. So I'm going to do 12,600 minus 10,000. Means this time she's going to pay $2,600 in interest.
Does P stand for price?
What's that?
Does P stand for price?
Principal. You'll learn that in the first lesson. All right. Principal interest. And then this is interest. Okay. So clearly she has to pay more in interest this time, doesn't she? Than she did. And she even got a better interest rate, but she still had to pay more. Why? Because she took it for a longer period of time, right? The more you stretch out how long it takes to pay back your loan, the more interest you're going to pay in the end. Okay? But, you know, it's always a trade-off. Okay? So this would be 5 years. It takes her 5 years, 2,600 interest, which was more than the 1,600 when she did the 3 years. But of course, the dilemma always is when you take a loan and you decide, okay, how long am I going to take to pay it back? Her payment per month was lower, wasn't it? So you have to decide how much money are you getting in per month that you can afford in a loan that you're paying back a month. If you're making good money, then you want to take as short a term loan as possible, right? Because you'll pay less in interest in the end. However, if you're sort of struggling to get by, but you need this loan, okay, you want to spread it out. Because you'll be, even though you'll pay more interest in the long run, you'll be paying less in the short run per month. Okay. Okay. One more question. Not only can we find how much you pay per month when you take out a loan and you're paying it back, and how much principal and interest you pay over the term of the loan that you borrow it for, and how much interest you have to pay. We could also calculate interest rates, because you may decide, you may say to yourself, okay, look, I've got $300 per month that I can use to pay back a loan. Okay, and I need 10 better. So, well, let's in her case, she says, okay, I can afford $462.60 a month. I can afford that. I make enough money that I can afford to pay that per month. But I need $10,000. What's the interest rate? Okay, what's the interest rate I need in order to achieve this? So remember, the amortization table is for $1,000 loan. So if she pays, if it's a $10,000 loan, and she's paying $462.60 per month. How do I calculate how much she would pay for a 1,000? Well, how many times less is this? 10, so I just divide 10. So I take 462.60, divide 10. And I get 46.26. So now I gotta go to the table. $46.26. Where do we see 46.26? Yeah, we see it at 2 years at 10.25%. That's pretty good. Okay? Because that's actually a really high borrowing rate. Your borrowing rate would not be that high. So she's in pretty good position here if she can afford to pay this per month. So from the table, if she can get an interest rate of 10.25% or lower and pay it off over 2 years, she's good. Chances, and like I said, chances are she'll save some money because in reality, the interest rate that you'll borrow at is going to be lower than this, unless you go to one of those payday loan places, which are really dangerous because they charge you interest through the roof. Okay. Yes, and they'll lend money to anybody, but it'll cost you.
Is that like when you're super desperate?
Yeah. Like, have you seen, like, let's see, what is it? I think Money Mart is another one. You may have seen some of these around.
That's like beyond my house.
Yeah, that's another one. You know, like, oh, it looks wonderful. Everything looks wonderful. You know, we can help you get a personal loan from 500 up to 20,000, even with no credit history. Okay, so you could just turn 18, you have no credit history whatsoever, and you go get a $20,000 loan. And they'll even offer you a personal product and affordable payment plans, but you'll pay in the end. Okay, with terms up to 84 months. Let's see, what do we got? Oh, look at that. Look at their rates. Starting from 29.99%. Are you crazy? Banks? No way. Let's see. Let's look at a bank.
It sounds so good. Right now, it's like slap with this.
Yep. TD personal loan. Let's see. See if they give us any rates.
I'm going to be told that, and then I'm going to get into an unfortunate aspect.
What's the TD prime rate? Usually you pay a little bit over prime. So right now the TD prime rate is 6.45%. So you may, that's sort of the standard interest rate, but usually you'll pay a little bit more than that. Okay, so, but you're not paying anywhere near 30% from a place like Money Mart. Okay, so yeah, so that, but that's where they make their money, is the interest. That's how these companies survive. Is they give loans to anybody. I mean, it's like what happened in the US when it collapsed back in like 2008. It's because they were giving loans to anybody. People were buying houses left and right, and they were getting loans, and everybody. And then when it came to paying them back, it was a crisis because nobody could pay them back, and it turned into a crisis. So.
Wait, hold on. What?
I know. Okay, keeps doing that.